the most important thing is to master all of the skills, all of the concepts, all of the techniques, and then spend time in process mode. And I'll explain what that is in a second, to develop your own unique voice. Until or unless you do that, it's going to be like pushing a rock uphill. People ask me often, they go, well, how can I make a living from my art? And for the most part, when I look at their art, it's like, well, your art is pretty good. It's like pretty good will get you as far in art as it will as a professional golfer or professional hockey player. Like you're trying to make a living out of something that people do for free as a hobby. Good enough isn't good enough. You need to be great. And the other thing and how do we define great? That's the question, right? Well, in the village that I'm in the village of commercial sales, we define great art by the impact it has on the public.
All right, welcome to the Winner Circle podcast, and I'm your host, Jay Adewole, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for an inspiring conversation titled The Business of Art by Turning Talent into Income. Today, we are joined by Tim Parker, founder of Tim Parker Art Academy, a platform dedicated to helping artists transform their creative talent into sustainable, profitable careers. As you already know, Team has guided countless artists through the process of developing their skills, building a brand, and monetizing. Remember the word monetizing their art, while also maintaining authenticity and creative freedom. So, with years of experience as an artist, educator, and entrepreneur, Tim blends practical business strategies with a deep understanding of the creative process, and his work empowers artists to take control of their career, develop multiple income streams, and create long-term financial stability through their passion. So in today's conversation, Tim will share actionable steps the steps artists can take to turn their talent into income, and also the mindset shift required to thrive in the business of art, and the strategies for building a sustainable, fulfilling creative career. So join us as we explore how creativity, strategy, and entrepreneurship intersect to help artists succeed on their own terms. So we're going to dive in. How are you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Yeah, I always love having you on the show. It's gonna be an interesting conversation. And for our listeners, for if you're watching this, look at behind me. That's a beautiful city right here. Tim already commented about it. And we are talking about the snow currently in Canada.
Yeah, we're
Tim told me
snowing
that
up
it's
here
really,
right now.
oh my God. So it's actually very cold out here in New York too, but I can't wait for me to jump to the summertime and look forward to it. Anyways, Tim, your journey as an artist and entrepreneur, I must say, looking at your profile is inspiring.
Well, thanks. I think you've really hit one of the nails on the head there too, that most artists don't realize, is that if
Hmm.
you are an artist, you are an entrepreneur. You are
Hmm.
the CEO of you and your
Hmm.
brand and your business. And it's not just about, going in the studio and pushing paint around. It's like, as soon as you decide you want to make a living as an artist, then
Hmm.
you're an entrepreneur, and
Sure.
everything that applies to every other entrepreneur also applies to you as an artist.
Interesting. So, but how did you realize it could be a viable career and not just like every other?
Well, like most people, I decided when I was a kid, I really had the dream of becoming a successful artist. And at that time, the conventional wisdom was the only way to do that was to be a graphic designer. At the time, it was called a commercial artist. So I took commercial art in high school, studied graphic design in college, came out of college in 1980, ready to take on the world. And I wanted to be an illustrator because that was the one part of graphic design where you actually got to draw and paint. But reality kind of smacked me hard in the face after 3 years of trying to make it. All I'd been able to achieve was low-level entry positions, kind of mind-numbing and soul-sucking work. And I looked around and I saw a lot of people who were much more talented than I was at that time. And I just I made the decision, I guess I'm not talented enough to become a professional artist. So I went with plan B, which was the Toronto Police Force was hiring. I went down, put an application in, and that led to an 18-year career on the police force. And I had a job I was really good at and I really liked and I was successful at, but I didn't really love it. And then what happened is in my 30s, I started to really miss it. I knew deep down I was an artist, but I wasn't painting. I wasn't creating any art. And that was around the time I first became exposed to the idea of the growth mindset, the idea that your talent is not something that's fixed that you either have or don't have, but that your talent is simply the sum total of your skills, knowledge, creativity, and experience. And you can increase all of those things. And I came across an artist by the name of Harley Brown who said that, like natural talent is nothing. It's a myth. It's all about how hard you're willing to work to improve your talent. And at first I didn't want to hear that because it meant I'd given up on my dream. Not because it turned out, not because I wasn't talented enough. It was because I wasn't persistent enough. But a little voice in the back of my head said, what if he's right? What if I just wasn't talented enough yet back then? And what if I could become talented enough to actually make a living from my art? So I really just doubled down and started treating art like it was my job. Scheduling, making sure I painted 3 times a week, making sure that I kind of examined what are the weaknesses that are right now in my artistic tool belt that I really need to improve, and then just worked on those. And then at the same time, tragedy kind of had a big impact. A good friend of mine who was a fellow police officer was killed in the line of duty. And that
Wow.
just really brought home to me that we only have today. Because part of me was thinking, well, maybe I'll just wait till I retire. Then I'll have 20 or 30 years to pursue my art. And I realized there's no guarantee of anything. So I really just kind of doubled down on my art, and like a funny thing happened. I got much better fairly quickly. Within 3 years, I was getting work into juried shows. I was winning some awards and I was starting to sell my work. And then I got elected to a couple national societies in Canada. And before I knew it, my wife and I were talking about not if I would leave the police force to paint full time, but when. And that was in late 1999. So with a new millennium on the horizon, we decided that would be the perfect times. Basically, January 1st, 2000, I quit my job and started my journey as a full-time artist. And that, even after 18 years on the police force, was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Wow. That must be, if when fear comes, you reply that with enough courage, and that's what you've done so far. So I know that your experience setting up an organization with your what some people consider as their hobby. Some people use art as
Yeah.
just something they do but you converted it into an income, which is a good thing, and that's what you've shared with us so far. But now let's go back a little bit and look at the fact that you have an academy, art academy, So before founding the Tim Parker Art Academy, which is a great academy, what challenges did you face in turning your art, first of all, turning your art into a sustainable business?
I focus the same challenge every other artist does, which is, like you say, you do it as a hobby. How do you now turn it into an actual thriving business? And it was not easy. Even when I left the police force, I was making about $15,000 a year from my art. And I thought, well, when I leave the police force, I'll be able to dedicate full time to that. It will go up, commensurately. And that didn't happen. I still struggled for about the first 4 or 5 years when I left the police force, trying to figure out a way to actually make a living from my art. And the one thing I discovered during that journey, a number of things. First is that there's no one art village or art world. There's like a bunch of different art villages. And the problem for a lot of artists, and the problem that I had at the time too, is you get really conflicting messages. So the two villages that most artists kind of are aware of, there's the one that's like the academic institutional art village. So that's with a lot of universities, publicly funded galleries where artists get grants, where it's like critics and curators who are deciding what's great art. And in that world, they really don't appreciate skill, craft, beauty, any of the things that have been important in art really since the Enlightenment up until the 50s when postmodernism kicked in. And so that's one whole village of the art world. But the village that I wanted to be in was where I actually got to create paintings that I loved, that actually express skill, and competence and craft and great beauty, and make a living from that. Well, that's a totally different village. That's the village that I call commercial sales. That's where real people are actually buying art to hang on their walls, whether it's in their home or in their office. And the funny thing that's kind of come about is study after study shows that in that village, what people really do value most is all of those traditional artistic skills that have been important since the Enlightenment. So again, skill, technical ability, craft, composition, resonance. And in that village, in the village that I'm in, the village of commercial sales, what's really important is not what I felt when I was creating the work, but what does a viewer feel when they look at the work? Does it resonate with them? Does it reach out and engage them and actually make them want to bring it home with them? And once I realized that, that was a big turnaround, because I was making the mistake that a lot of other artists were, which was kind of combining the two villages, trying to create work that evoked some special meaning that I was trying to create, and where there was like some concept, but then also showing some skill and being able to show off a little bit my technical ability. Well, the problem there is there's no village that values both of those. You're kind of all in one or all in the other. And that's when things really changed for me, when I really just dug deep on that village and really started focusing on just maximizing my skills. And then the key thing was going on the search to find a unique voice, because there are a lot of good artists out there and there are a lot of great artists out there. But if there's nothing that separates your work from the rest of the field, where people see it and immediately go, I know who did that. That is the key. Once you can reach that level of not only technical excellence, but also having a unique voice, now all of a sudden we bring in scarcity into the equation, that there's only one person producing art like that. All of a sudden the cost goes up. And then as more and more people find your work and fall in love with it and want to buy it, now the price goes up, the urgency goes up. So the voice that I'm kind of known for now, which was like the sunlight kind of coming through the trees, basically, that first painting that ever really kind of shows that came about in about 2005. I was doing an art festival, and that painting was, and at the time I was searching for my voice. So I was all over the map in terms of different stylistic approaches, different subject matter. And when I finished that one painting, I thought this might be the best painting I've ever created. And I was also in that flow state that it was just like time just disappeared. And so at this one festival, I showed this painting amongst all my other work. That painting sold in the first 5 minutes. And the couple, luckily, had just got to the festival because the doors just opened. And they said, do you mind if we leave it here in your tent while we look around? And I said, sure, no problem. Well, I could have sold that painting 20 times in the next hour. Everybody that came into my tent was drawn to that piece. I finally ended up taking it down and wrapping it up, because as soon as people saw that piece and realized that it was already sold, they just quit looking at what else I had. But when I left that festival, I knew there was something special about that piece and the way I created it. I had a fundraising auction coming up for one of the big art centers here. So I did 2 pieces in kind of a similar style. They both sold at auction for double what I was charging for my work at that time. And then I decided, okay, I need to go big on this. There was the Toronto Indoor Art Expo, which was a huge festival with a big ticket price tag. And a friend of mine who was a gallery owner had seen my new work, and he was just really pushing me. You got to get this work out in front of the public. So I was doing festivals at that time that might cost $300 or $500 to do. It was $5,000 to do this festival. And I spent about 3 months in my studio with my head down, just creating work in this style that had evolved. And the festival started. I'd made my booth fee back by 11 o'clock in the morning. On opening night, we did 18,000 in sales. I did 28,000 in sales over the course of the weekend, and I just really never looked back. But that is the key that I want to get across to artists, is that you need to keep working on your skills and keep working in process mode, trying things, pushing your creativity until you find that voice where you love the work You love the process of creating it, and enough of the public loves the work. Once that happens, making a living is easy. I went from making $30,000 a year to over $200,000 a year with no real kind of like business changes. It was just because the demand for my work kept going up and the price kept going up. And then we've since branched off where, I mean, I was initially carried by one of the big publishers, Mill Pond Press, but with the advent of digital printing and G-Clay publishing, we realized we can get in and do this ourselves. We have our own publishing division in the business. I do limited edition prints of my work that we market across North America. And then again, 2020, I started my online art academy because I realized there was a real need for this. There's so many artists out there that share that same dream that I had, that would love to be living the life that I live, but they don't know how to get there. And the universities aren't teaching them because universities don't even deal with this village. They're all in that other village. And so, yeah, in 2020, I had some really big health issues. I had a couple near-death experiences from my thyroid, and kind of in those moments when I was lying on the gurney thinking, with my wife beside me, not knowing if I was going to reach tomorrow, a couple things really, really struck me. And the one was that the overwhelming feeling that I had thinking this might be my last few minutes here on earth was gratitude. It was like, whoever, whatever has been responsible for allowing me to live this life that I've lived, just thank you. Oh, and it's like, if it's over, I feel bad for my boys, feel bad for my wife. It's going to be hard on them, but boy, I was given a life. And then over the course of that next year, and the other thing was I had no regrets. I hear Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this all the time. People talk to old people and they have so many regrets. I had no regrets. I had kind of lived the life that I wanted. And then over the next year, we weren't sure if I was going to recover. I'm totally 100% fine now. My thyroid's gone. Everything's good. But over that year, while I was, recovering, I really decided there really was one regret. And that was that I hadn't done enough to share what I know with other artists who have that same dream. I'd been putting content out on my YouTube video for about 6 or 7 years, but it was really just a passion project. I did it in my part-time with whatever spare time I had. I wasn't investing any money in it. And so while I was recovering, I made the decision that if I get well, sharing what I've learned was no longer just going to be a passion project. It was going to be my full-time mission. And so that's why in 2020, we went all in, created the Tim Packer Art Academy with high-level courses, the mastermind program. And I'm just thrilled with the fact that we're going to hit $600,000 in course sales sometime in the next month, and that a number of artists who have come in through my academy are living the dream now. One of the first students that came into my art academy, Emily Valentine, she just won the first prize in a major competition that was $50,000 tax-free money, as well as selling $70,000 of her work last year. And so that's what makes me happy now. It's always great. I'm still painting, I'm still selling work, but nothing makes me happier than seeing other people go on to have the same kind of success and knowing that I had a part in that.
It's taken me a while to try to assimilate those information. So
It's a
powerful
lot.
information. It's a lot. Yeah, but it's worth it because a lot of listeners are listening to this show, Hey, winners, as we continue our journey together today, I want to share something truly special with you. Over the years, I've had the privilege of coaching countless business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, guiding them to achieve breakthrough results and unlocking their full potential. So I'm opening up just 4 slots for my monthly business coaching program. That's right, 4 slots. After being fully booked for the past 3 years, if you're ready to elevate your business with personalized guidance, proven strategy, and a supportive community, I'm here to help you navigate challenges, refine your vision, and achieve your goals. So if you're committed to taking your business to the next level, I want to hear from you. Reach out to me directly at jay@winnercirclewithj.com and discuss how we can work together to build the future your business deserves. So don't wait. This is your moment. Join Winner Circle and let's embark on this transformative journey towards success together. And now let's dive back into today's episode. That they're struggling with monetizing their work. That if they want to get started, what will be the first step they should take to start generating income?
Well, there's kind of it's the two different things. The first thing you have to do is to develop, well, the first thing you have to do is decide what village you want to play in, right? Because if someone's interested in getting their work in the MoMA, or they're looking at getting grants and having their work displayed in public institutions and public galleries, that's a whole different village, and I'm not their guy. But if they want to have the kind of life, which I think most people that love art, they dream of going into their studio, creating work that they love, and having people buy their work, actually line up to buy their work, and take home and hang on their walls in their homes or their offices, or do limited edition prints of their work. So in that village, the very first thing, the most important thing, is to master all of the skills, all of the concepts, all of the techniques, and then spend time in process mode. And I'll explain what that is in a second, to develop your own unique voice. Until or unless you do that, it's going to be like pushing a rock uphill. People ask me often, they go, well, how can I make a living from my art? And for the most part, when I look at their art, it's like, well, your art is pretty good. It's like pretty good will get you as far in art as it will as a professional golfer or professional hockey player. Like you're trying to make a living out of something that people do for free as a hobby. Good enough isn't good enough. You need to be great. And the other thing and how do we define great? That's the question, right? Well, in the village that I'm in the village of commercial sales, we define great art by the impact it has on the public. And that impact is when people see your work, enough of them go, oh my God, I love it. I have to have it. It inspires that biblical emotion of coveting, where they just really have to take it home, and they'll make bad decisions, the financial decisions that they shouldn't, to buy your art. They just need it, right? And so it's like, that is the first thing, is developing that level of skill and the unique voice. Now, the whole skill thing, there's all kinds of stuff out there that, again, that's the stuff that artists have been developing since the Renaissance. But the whole unique voice, that's another thing. And the thing that artists need to understand when they want to develop their own unique voice is there's three different modes of creating. There's product mode, which is, when I'm creating work for a show, I'm just using the skills, the techniques, the subject matter, the mediums that I'm competent and confident in. And every time I do that, I should get a painting that hits the bar, whatever that bar is for me. The problem is you'll never grow as an artist. And then there's another mode called practice, which is like doing life drawing classes, doing sketches, doing blind contour drawings, just to improve the skills. And then the most important one is process mode. And in process mode, that's where we're going outside of our comfort zone. That's where we're trying things we've never done before. But here's the problem: when you go and try things you've never done before, it often isn't successful. And so what happens is artists will develop a certain level of competency where they can produce pretty good paintings. They'll try something new and it doesn't work out. And so then they'll come back to their comfort zone and do what they're doing. And then they'll try something new again. It doesn't work out, and they'll come back to their comfort zone. And then just the thought of trying something new now can cause like a panic attack, because now you got the fear of failure. Now the lizard brain kind of kicks in. And the important thing to understand here is that when you're in process mode, paintings are supposed to fail. That's part of the process, because the whole purpose of process mode is not to create a finished painting that's successful. It's to actually go in and try the thing and learn. And so the very first thing you have to do when you're trying something new is you give yourself permission for it to fail. And this isn't just with art, right? I mean, this applies to kind of anything. When you're trying something you don't know how to do, there's a good chance you're going to fail. And it's like, okay, you just want to make sure failure is not going to be catastrophic. And for us, it's just a piece of paper. It's just a piece of canvas. But the beauty about process mode is that's also where breakthroughs happen, right? That's where you'll create something that's better than anything you've ever done before. Or painting, like anything in entrepreneurship, it's not just knowing what to do, it's knowing what not to do, right? What to avoid. So even when you have the worst painting that you've ever created, you've learned what not to do next time. And the problem with most artists, as I said, they step outside their comfort zone a few times, They get gun shy because things didn't work out. And then they stay in their comfort zone, producing moderately competent paintings for the rest of their life and try to market that. And I don't know how you do that. So, and that's the other thing is because in product mode, you never improve. You're just creating the same work 20 years down the road as you are now. And in process mode, that's where the learning happens. And as you're continually kind of revolving through practice, process, and product, each time you come back to the product mode, well, you've got more knowledge, more skills, more experience, and you've pushed your creativity. So the level of your work just keeps going up. And you just basically stay on that cycle until you're creating work that gets that reaction from the public, where you also love going into the studio to paint, where you get up excited every day. And the problem with most artists is they very early on in the career start trying to monetize what really is just moderately competent work. And you can't make a living as a moderately competent artist any more than you can make a living as a moderately competent golfer, baseball player, singer, business person, whatever.
Thank you so much for sharing the information. So, but now a lot of artists talk about social media because social media plays a huge role in exposure. So, what's your advice for artists who feel overwhelmed by it?
The best way to actually figure out how to use social media for whatever it is you're doing is look at, so this is for artists, right? Look at other artists who are very, very successful at social media, that have huge following, that get huge reach, where their social media actually drives sales, and then look at what they're doing and see how you can incorporate that into what you do. And I'll give them two examples. Again, the one student of mine, Emily Valentine, just like it sounds, check her out on Facebook and Instagram. She is just killing it there. She basically just paints in her studio, posts her Instagram, Facebook posts, and then sells off her website. She can't keep up with the demand for her work. And then there's another artist by the name of Brooke Cormier. Her last name Cor. This is an artist that I actually mentored personally back in 2017. She was a daughter of a golf buddy of mine who was interested in getting into art. So I said I would mentor her. We actually posted all of our sessions up on my YouTube channel. She's got over 1 million followers on social media now. She sells her work all over the world. So look at what those artists are doing and then try to come up with just 2 or 3 types of posts that are easily repeatable that you can do over and over again, right? And so one of the ones right now, and I'm actually stealing from them as well, because these are young whippersnappers who are good at this. So I'll do the same thing. So I have my book here to show you the kind of what I do, but what they found very successful in what I do is it's a reveal, right? So it's like you just have the painting up in front of you, like with the image facing you, and you just turn it around and reveal it. And it's simple, right? Every time you create a new painting, you do that. It's a 15-second reel. I've been focusing so much time on the Art Academy and on the book over the last year that I hadn't really been painting that much. And in the last 6 weeks, I got back into painting. And so I've been back diligent with the social media posts. I'm getting 30, 40, 50,000 views on these just simple reveals. I got one of them that got me over 100,000 views organically. I haven't seen that kind of organic reach since the days before Zuckerberg started making us pay to get the reach. And so it's still possible out there. But the other great thing about being an artist is you are creating, when you're in the studio creating, you're creating stuff that can be great content, right? So the reveal is one of them. The other one is the process video, right? Where it's like, if you're working on a painting, just every so often, just take a little 5-second video with your phone or put it in a stand or have someone hold it while you're painting. And then at the end of the painting, you just put together like a 30 or 40-second reel with a bunch of jump cuts that show the painting from start to finish. Those do really well. And as well, just still images. People love watching artists at work. So doing those in progress shots of you working on paintings. But the real key there is, when you're in the studio creating your work, you're creating content. You just need to document that creative process and then come up, like I say, with 2 or 3 different formats of social media posts that are easily repeatable. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every day.
Every time you're working on a painting, do it and put it out there. So thank you so much for all the information you shared so far.
My pleasure.
Yes. So a follow-up. What skills would you say beyond art should new artists focus on when they focus on mastering, actually?
Well, the two most important ones are drawing ability. And drawing is not just about making marks on paper, but drawing is about the ability to see like an artist, right? It's to be able to see, you know, if we see a coffee cup sitting on a counter, you see it in terms of warm and cool light and the shapes and the reflected light and the bounce light and reflections and just seeing shapes, colors, values, edges, those kind of things. And that's what Picasso said, right? As a child, he saw as a child, and it took him 50 years to be able to see that again. Because our mind, by the time we're 4 or 5 years old, our mind is giving us the interpreted version, which is not actually what's there. It's the easiest example I can give of that. If you think of a white house with a black roof in bright sunshine, that roof that's reflecting the sun is very likely going to be lighter in value than the white part of the house that's in the porch in the shade. But when we look at it, our mind goes, oh, that's a white house with a black roof. So if you're painting the translated version, you're going to paint the roof darker than the porch, which is not actually what happens. So you need to see like an artist. So that's the kind of drawing ability. And then the other thing is composition. It's the way in which we arrange and organize the various marks on our paper or canvas to engage the viewer. And it's just like music. You can have a brilliantly composed song that you can have a bunch of kindergarten kids singing it, and it's still beautiful. And you can have a really poorly composed song, and Michael Bublé can't sing that song good unless he changes the composition. Mastering those two things. And then the other thing that I would say in this environment we're in, with things are changing so much, so quickly, is developing that ability to be a lifelong learner. Because I just think of, when I started this and first hit my success, social media wasn't a thing. Websites weren't even a thing yet. Now it's like I'm dealing with students around the world on my live calls. I'm dealing with you now. We're publishing our prints and sending them around the world. Again, Facebook, all of this kind of stuff. And it's just going to keep changing more and more and more. So the best skill I think that you can have as any entrepreneur, regardless of your business, is to really welcome the fact that things are changing and just make the commitment that rather than being afraid of it, rather than trying to avoid it, you're going to embrace it and you're going to become a lifelong learner and take advantage of all of these new advances that are coming. Because the people who do that are the ones who are really going to win. The people who put their head in the sand and go, no, I'm just going to stick with what's worked for me up till now, they're going to get left behind. The biggest thing that I've learned, and you're going to appreciate this, is that it's hard. It's all hard. Being successful in your own business, and again, if you're an artist, you're in your own business, making a successful business and turning it into something that's long-term sustainable and profitable is hard work. And most people don't want to hear that. They, the posts about, take my course and 3 weeks, you're going to be making passive income and sitting on the beach, drinking a Mai Tai. It's all hard. One of the, and we even have sayings that kind of just promote this myth, right? The whole idea that, the saying that I really wish never ever happened is that if you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And it's like, oh my God, that is so far off. I like to change it to, if you have the audacity to hope the world will give you a good living by doing the thing that you love to do more than anything else, you better be willing to work at that harder than you've ever worked at anything else in your life. And you better be willing to work harder than the other people who share that same dream as well. And I think what happens is people hear that and then, it's like, well, I just want to go in and create my work. And it's like, well, yeah, you have to develop a website, you have to develop an email list, you have to, and they're going, well, it sounds like work. And according to that saying, if it sounds like work, I shouldn't have to do it. And it's like, no, you have to do a lot of work. And the whole myth of passive income, it's a thing, but it usually doesn't start kicking in until you're already very successful, right? You have to, first of all, go out and achieve success at the thing that you're doing. And then if you want the passive income, like from kind of teaching, which a lot of people are, the online courses and all that, well, you first have to achieve the success in the thing. And then you have to actually help other people achieve the same level of success and become known for being able to do that before people are then going to line up to pay for your online courses where you can start getting the passive income. But, the whole idea of a 21-year-old life coach, right? It's like, I don't think at 21 years of age, you've done enough, learned enough to be able to start charging people in their 50s and 60s for their advice
Mm.
on how you should live their life, right?
All right. Thank you so much. How about if you had experience maybe as from the age of 10, and there's some parents that put their kids in the game even before they become older. Probably they have a lot of experience till probably they get to like 30, and at the age of 30 they already have at least substantial experience to be able to have knowledge in that field. But still yet, that aside, as we begin to round up, I thought about something. I was speaking to one of our guests and we spoke about AI. I know it's something that is a big concern for the creative industry itself. So how concerning
Hey, winners, have you got a business or brand that deserves to shine? I'm just saying this right now because I'm giving the opportunity for you to advertise on Winner Circle with Jay and connect with thousands of ambitious entrepreneurs and leaders who are about growth. It's all about growth. So whether you are advertising a product or a service, secure your slot as low as $100. So what are you waiting for? Email us at advert@winnercirclewithj.com. Here at Winner Circle with Jay, we just don't talk success, we create success. All right, see you soon.
is AI for the art industry?
I think it's gonna impact it the same way that the photography impacted it, right? As soon as photography came about, everyone was like, well, why are we gonna have painters or artists anymore? We can have this technology to generate kind of images. I personally feel, and I'm actually seeing this in the response from like my clients and people on my mailing list, that as we become more and more kind of bombarded with this artificially manufactured stuff, right? Or mass produced stuff, people are more and more really searching for things that are touched by the hand of an artist, things that really are one of a kind, something that was actually created from the human mind. And I think all of this other AI stuff, yes, it's going to impact kind of the lowest level of decor that people put into their homes. And that's fine because it all becomes, to create some pretty stunning visual pieces with AI, you just need to put the right prompts in. It just, whoever has the best prompts is going to create the most compelling stuff. But it just becomes a commodity then because anybody with the right prompts can just go in and create that thing. There's a real difference between that and someone staring at a blank canvas with a palette full of paint in front of them and then being able to create something that is actually unique and that was created with the hand and mind of the artist. So I don't think it is really going to kind of impact at the highest level. It may impact at the lowest level where people are spending $100 on a piece of art to hang on their wall. Well, quite frankly, AI can create better pieces than a lot of the art that's out there from people who haven't mastered the skills, haven't really invested the time and effort to actually create work that, that people are going to want to spend a lot of money for. But I think AI can be very freeing as well. I mean, I look at it for me, like I use it a lot, nothing to do with the creation of my art, but I use it in my business. Even something as simple as like a YouTube video, right? Like a year ago, after I crafted a YouTube video, I would go through and watch it and write out the timestamps and the description. Now, when I create a YouTube video, if it's a 30-minute video, I just export the transcript as a text file. I put it into ChatGPT. I say, this is my latest video. It's 30 minutes long. Can you please separate out the important timestamps, suggest keywords for me, and give a brief description of the video? That's something that you could have hired a copywriter to do, but ChatGPT will do it in like 30 seconds. And it used to take me 3 hours to kind of go through the video, thinking what are the important things, all that. So I think there's many, many things we can use AI for that kind of allow us to free up our time to actually do what it is we want to be doing most, which is being in the studio and creating.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful information. Also for teaching people how to monetize their talent. So for artists just starting out, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your own career?
That your ultimate talent, your ultimate kind of ability as an artist is in no way limited by where you are right now when you start. It's all learnable stuff, and it's actually learnable within a very few short years. You can have incredible results. And when you think about it, we know where, people go from high school into an art program. And if they're into an art program that really is focusing on all of the skills and the traditional stuff, in 5 years, the growth can be phenomenal, right? Well, that's possible even at 50 or 60. I have one of the ladies in my my art academy in my mastermind course. She's the same age as me. She just started painting 3 years ago. And this year, she's going to make over $50,000 from the sale of her art. It doesn't matter where you start or when you start. The thing is that you start and just, again, develop that growth mindset that your ultimate potential as an artist is limitless as long as you keep striving to improve your skills, get more knowledge, push your creativity, just increase the experiences. So when you come to that easel, you've just got more and more tools in that artistic tool belt.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing all this beautiful information. And really appreciate everything you've done. So if you're a listener or a subscriber to the Winner Circle podcast, or you're just watching live, please reach out to Tim Parker on their his platform if you're an artist or if you want to develop um your art, you can always reach out to him. Um, and on LinkedIn is Tim Parker, right?
Yeah. But the best way to really, if they're interested in actually learning from me on my YouTube channel, it's Tim Packer Fine Arts. And I've got a couple hundred videos of free content there. And then if they're interested in actually working with me in my academy and my courses, then that's www.timpackerartacademy.com.
All right, thank you so much.
You're
So,
welcome.
yeah, we really appreciate you coming on the show. So, if you feel today's conversation inspired you, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Winner Circle podcast on your favorite platform because your support helps us to continue bring inspiring leaders and practical strategies to listeners around the world. And also, I want you to connect with us on social media and share your favorite takeaways or questions from this episode. We love hearing how these discussions help you take meaningful steps to elevate your creativity, your business strategies, and financial confidence. I want to say thank you for tuning in to today's Winner Circle podcast with Jay. And remember, clarity, discipline, and business-minded actions are the keys to a thriving art career. So until next time, I'm your host, Jay Adewole, encouraging you to create boldly, build wisely, and turn your art into a lasting success. Have a nice day, guys. All right.